The Ukraine war has been an embarrassment for Russia's air force, already practically forced out of Ukraine itself following the loss of hundreds of planes and helicopters. That air force has been reduced to attacking from behind the lines. Even Russia's best fighter jet, the Su-57, has practically been a non-factor in the fighting. So Ukraine had a challenge on its hands. How do you take out an Su-57 when it's inside Russia? The answer is with a genius trick that made Russia shoot down its own fighter jet. A modern-day Trojan Horse, this trick possessed Russian air defenses into taking aim at the one thing they weren't supposed to shoot. As for the Su-57, let's just say it isn't flying anymore. The early reports were vague. On July 23rd, Euromaidan Press said that a Russian fighter jet, then reported and later confirmed as an Su-57, had crashed in the Moscow Oblast. No casualties were reported as the pilot ejected and the jet didn't crash into a populated area. The incident occurred at 1350 in the Odintsovo district, which lies about 65 kilometers west of Moscow and is close to Zvenigorod. Photos soon started making the rounds, showing the burning wreckage of the jet in the middle of a field. Russia kept its lips sealed. All it would say was that a combat trainer had crashed during an attempted takeoff, that the pilot had ejected, and there was no damage reported on the ground. Later came claims of a technical malfunction that had inflicted the jet, forcing a crash. Russia's investigative committee also opened a criminal case under legal statute that covers violations of flight preparation procedures and in-flight rules. The Su-57 that crashed was an interesting case. It appears likely that it was based at the Kubinka Air Base, which is the closest to Zvenigorod, being just 30 kilometers to the southwest of the settlement. Russia uses this base for evaluation and demonstration flights, and it's also home to the Swifts and Russian Knights aerobatic teams. From this base, Russia likes to showcase its supposedly fifth-generation fighter, as well as conduct tests. Most other Su-57s are nowhere near this base. They've been withdrawn to Dyomgy Air Base, which is so deep in the Russian Far East that it's about 5,000 kilometers away from the combat lines in Ukraine. That's humiliating enough for Russia. It's having to keep its best fighter jet as far away from Ukraine because of its fear of drones. Now Russia has lost one of the few Su-57s that are within Ukraine's range. Was it a drone that did the damage? Did the Russian fighter experience the technical malfunction that Russia claims? As it turns out, neither. Something far more embarrassing happened. A friendly fire incident that has Ukraine's fingerprints all over it. The rumors soon started to swirl, and they went against the grain of Russia's claims that a more technical fault in one of the most advanced fighter jets in the world had downed the Su-57 just outside of Moscow. And it wasn't Ukraine that started the rumors. Russian military bloggers were among the first to start picking holes in the Russian Defense Ministry's story. A blogger named Romanov was one of the first to start asking what really happened, posting to Telegram alongside a picture of the downed jet. A number of questions must be put to the Bars Moscow air defense crew. Another military blogger named Arrow's Map outright stated that the Su-57 had been shot down by Russia's own air defenses, and openly speculated that a crew using a shoulder-fired missile launcher may have done the damage. The plot started to thicken. Though questions started to be asked, the Russian military bloggers also pointed out that Russia has a quandary on its hands. So a friendly fire incident may have been recorded, and that's bad, but it would be even worse to pull the Su-57 still near Moscow away. That would be a nightmare for the city's air defenses. And it's not like the traditional air defenses can go either. Losing them leaves Moscow exposed, and that city, along with the surrounding territory, already has plenty to deal with when it comes to Ukrainian drone strikes over the past few months. These rumors turned attention toward the Bars Moscow air defenses. As Aerospace Global News reports, BARS stands for Combat Army Reserve, which tells us that Russia is using reservists to man its air defenses. Specifically, private militia groups and civilian volunteers have been working around Moscow, most armed with man-portable air defense systems or man-pads to shoot down low-flying drones. Another wrinkle to the story. The loss of Russia's Su-57 evolved from a technical fault downing the jet to a reservist taking aim at the Su-57 with man-pads and shooting it down. As it turned out, BARS Moscow seems to have played a role, but there's more to it than a panicked reservist firing at an Su-57. What seemed at first to be a malfunction and then a mistake is actually so much more worrying for Putin and his cronies. What happened at Odintsovo was neither. This was a case of possession, of Ukraine taking over control of Russia's air defenses like the Trojan Horse sneaking into Troy, and then unleashing them on one of the most valuable fighter jets in Russia's arsenal. It may have been Russian air defenses that shot the Su-57 down, but it was Ukraine that took aim. That's according to Inform Napalm, the Telegram channel, which is a military analysis and investigation channel that uses a combination of human, cyber, and open-source intelligence to expose what really happens in military operations, says that this wasn't a case of Russian error at all. Instead, Ukraine pulled off an ingenious trick against Russia, and it used a small army of hackers to get the job done. As a result of a complex cognitive influence and cybernetic invention, it was possible to influence the work of the air defense calculation of the Bars-Moscow formation and turn the Russian air defense circuit into a tool for defeating its own aircraft, the channel reported. What followed was an interesting analysis of what really happened to Russia's Su-57. Inform Napalm says that the story actually starts on July 17th, which is when the channel revealed that it was processing a new collection of materials that had been intercepted from the Russian occupiers. Among those materials were video streams of the very training ground from which the doomed Su-57 launched, which revealed that Russia was training its Bars-Moscow crew on how to intercept long-range Ukrainian drones. Inform Napalm didn't keep those intercepted materials to itself. It transferred them, along with an analytical note, to the relevant components of the defense forces of Ukraine. That note was a document providing data on the personnel training procedures Russia had in place, alongside combat algorithms, the hardware and software used, and potential vulnerabilities in the Bars-Moscow air defense system. In other words, Inform Napalm handed over the keys to the Kubinka air base castle. Ukraine started work on using those keys to unlock the base's air defenses. The information received was not only to observe the enemy. Approaches were found that allowed influencing the work of one of the Bars-Moscow calculations and using the system created by the Russians against the Russian target, Inform Napalm reports. Soon after, an Su-57 crashed into a field near the base. The victim of friendly fire that appears to have been caused by Ukrainian hackers taking control over an air defense system that is supposed to protect Moscow. This was a technical malfunction, all right, but it was a malfunction that Moscow isn't going to reveal anytime soon. The Su-57 was flying fine. It was the air defenses that were supposed to protect the jet and everything surrounding it that went haywire. Russia just lost an aircraft that is reported to cost somewhere around the $100 million mark because it wasn't able to protect its cyber systems from Ukrainian hackers. Those hackers found a way in. They manipulated the Bars-Moscow system, and in a flash, Russia's best fighter jet was hit. That's the real story here. But this is also where things start to get interesting, because behind this very real issue that Russia has with protecting its cyber systems against Ukrainian hackers lies a much bigger problem. An issue that reveals how pathetic Russia's air force really is, and sheds light on the reality that lies behind what Putin has claimed to be the best fighter jet in the world. Before we dig deeper into all of that, this is a reminder that you're watching The Military Show. We reveal the stories behind the headlines. If you're getting insight from the channel, make sure you hit subscribe and activate notifications so you can see more of our videos as they're published. Let's start with Russia's dead planes. So many dead planes. The Su-57 that Ukraine just manipulated Russian air defenses into shooting down is the latest in a long line of fighter jets, bombers, spy planes, and choppers that Russia has lost in its invasion of Ukraine. In fact, this kill comes in the wake of a recent incident where Ukraine managed to score an air-to-air kill against a Russian Su-35 flanker using an F-16. That isn't supposed to be possible. The Su-35 should defeat the F-16 in a straight fight, but it failed. It's almost looking like Russia's claims about its fighter jets can't be backed up in real combat situations. More on that in the context of the Su-57 later. According to Ukraine's Ministry of Finance, Russia has now lost 439 planes and 354 helicopters since Putin launched his invasion. If you're looking for the answers as to why Russia hasn't used its massive air force, which Global Firepower reports maintains 4,237 assets, 2,754 of which are combat-ready, then this is your answer. Ukraine just keeps on shooting Russian aerial assets down, whether they're in Ukraine or hiding away inside Russia. The Su-57 that now burns in a Moscow field isn't even the first that Russia lost in its war. Back in June 2024, Ukraine was able to damage a pair of them using drones in an attack at the Akhtubinsk airbase. And in the spring of 2026, Ukrainian drones reached the Shargol base near the Urals, taking out another pair of Su-57s, alongside an Su-34 and another unnamed fighter jet made by Sukhoi. This isn't even the first time that Russia has shot down its own aircraft, albeit it's definitely a first in terms of the confirmed manipulation of Russian air defenses by Ukrainian hackers. A not insignificant number of Russia's aerial losses have occurred due to Russian air defenses taking aim at their own aircraft. Aerospace Global News reports that the number of its own aircraft that Russia has downed is unconfirmed, but it's likely greater than 10. We know for sure that Russia itself has blamed friendly fire on several incidents, including a pair of A-50U mainstay AEW and C aircraft shootdowns, though whether that's a case of the Kremlin preferring friendly fire stories over admitting that Ukraine has successfully conducted a strike remains to be seen. Late 2024 saw Russian air defenses shoot down Azerbaijan Flight 8243 Embraer 190 over southern Russia. This incident apparently took place during a Ukrainian drone attack, so air defenses were definitely active. Russia also hit an Aeroflot plane as it flew from Belarus in July 2025, though that plane managed to still land safely in Moscow after taking flak fire. Euromaidan Press adds more to the friendly fire casualty count. An Su-27 flying over occupied Crimea went down to Russia's own fire in March 2024. In 2023 over Tokmak, Russians killed one of their own Su-35 pilots using an S-300 air defense system. And near Moscow, Russian air defenses opened fire against the country's own helicopters in 2025 after mistaking those choppers for drones. It's almost as though Ukraine didn't need to hack the Bars Moscow air defenses at all. Wait long enough, and poor coordination between Russian air defense crews and aviators would have done the job for them. Then we come to Russia's Su-57 and a question that we haven't asked yet. How did Bars Moscow manage to take the jet down? We don't mean this in terms of the hacking. The Su-57 is supposed to be a fifth-generation stealth fighter that is on par with US airframes like the F-35 and F-22. Putin even said it himself, the Su-57 is supposed to be the best fighter jet in the world. If Russia's claims are accurate, the jet should have barely shown up on air defense radars at all, making it practically impossible for Bars Moscow to take it down. That leaves us to draw one of two conclusions. The first is that Bars Moscow is so effective that it's able to take out one of the world's best and stealthiest fighter jets. Russia wouldn't mind that conclusion, but it's a little difficult to make this claim when we have seen Ukraine score hit after hit in the Moscow region over the past couple of months using its drones. If Bars Moscow really is as effective as this incident of forced friendly fire makes it seem, Moscow should be a hell of a lot safer than it is right now. The second conclusion is the more interesting of the two. The Su-57 may not be all that Moscow claims it to be. As Global Defense Corps puts it, the downing of this aircraft by a Soviet-era missile system again proves that the aircraft is in no way a stealth fifth-generation aircraft. Note the use of the word "again." This is hardly the first time that questions have been raised about the Su-57 and its supposed stealth capabilities. Back in December 2022, the Aviation Geek Club released a damning report that revealed that Su-57s, despite being marketed to potential buyers as stealth fighters, aren't even close to their American equivalents. The outlet revealed that both the F-22 and F-35 have a radar cross-section, or RCS, that is between 1,000 and 10,000 times smaller than the Su-57s. Even the retired F-117, which was developed in the 1970s and is the first operational stealth aircraft, has a much smaller RCS than the Su-57. There are all sorts of reasons for this, from the weapons being carried on the outside of the Su-57 to the jet being little more than an upgraded version of the Su-27. But what it all boils down to is that Russia is incapable of building a stealth fighter jet. Sure, it will claim that it can, but the Su-57's RCS isn't an accident. It's what Russia aimed to achieve, and it's still nowhere close to true stealth. This is just humiliation after humiliation for Moscow at this point. An Su-57 crashed, that's bad enough. Then it was revealed that Russia's own air defenses took the jet down. And after that, we learned that Ukrainian hackers Trojan Horse their way into Russia's air defense system. And to top it all off, an Su-57 isn't even supposed to be detectable by the very defenses that took it down. Russia's supposed best-in-the-world fighter jet has just been exposed. Replacing this lost fighter jet isn't going to be easy for Russia. Global Defense Corps says that Russia's Air Force is believed to have only about 3 dozen Su-57s in service, and the Kremlin has been struggling to build more, likely as a result of Western sanctions. Russia has also been trying to sell Su-57s, though the only recorded sale made so far is to Algeria. There won't be many more sales made after Ukraine just exposed the Su-57 for what it really is, an updated 4th-generation fighter jet that can't even hide away from air defense systems made decades ago. Take a moment to think about what the people of Moscow must be thinking right now. Their region is under attack. Ukraine's drones have been flying, and it's clear that even the massive air defense systems that have been arranged around Moscow aren't doing enough to stop them. Ukraine has hit the Moscow region several times in 2026, including a strike in late June that targeted a satellite center in the oblast. Ukraine's drones have also been on a rampage against a company called Wildberries, which is often referred to as Russia's version of Amazon, and has a nice sideline in selling drones, military gear, and dual-use components. Muscovites who use Wildberries, from consumers purchasing products to business owners who rely on the service to make money, are panicking as warehouses burn and billions of dollars of inventory have gone up in smoke. Those living in Moscow are also only being spared from the fuel crisis that racks Russia right now because fuel is being rerouted to Moscow from Siberia, Reuters reports. That half measure can only work for so long before Muscovites find themselves in hours-long queues at the gas stations, just like the rest of the Russian population that doesn't happen to live in Putin's gilded city. Now they're having to watch Moscow's air defenses fail so badly that they're shooting down ultra-modern fighter jets that Putin has told them are the best jets in the world. What must those people be thinking right now? The war that Putin started hasn't just come to their doorstep. It's becoming increasingly clear that Ukraine is only getting stronger. The drones prove that. But now Ukraine has the ability to hack into Russian air defenses, forcing them to fire on their own equipment. Could that happen again? If it does, what will Ukraine force those defenses to target next? Those have to be the questions swirling around in the minds of Muscovites who can see, clearer than ever before, that their great protector Putin can't shield them from a thing. That's just what Ukraine wants. The remarkable possession of Russian air defenses around Moscow is a brilliant trick, and it's produced a devastating result for an Su-57. But it's the message that Ukraine sent with this Trojan Horse that is even more valuable. Every day, Putin's war creeps closer to the doorsteps of those living in the one city that was supposed to be untouchable. How much longer are Muscovites going to take this before they start asking serious questions about their president and the state of the military that he has created? As Russian air defenses turn against their own in Moscow, Russians in Belgorod have a much different problem. Putin's war was brought to their doorstep years ago, and just a few days before Russia's Su-57 catastrophe was revealed, Ukraine pulled off a strike for the ages. A Belgorod dam has been breached. The flooding has disrupted everything, and there's an unexpected yet brilliant military purpose for this attack that you can learn about if you watch our video. Plus, if you enjoyed this video, we have plenty more waiting for you on The Military Show. Hit subscribe today to make sure you're among the first to see what we have coming next, and thank you for watching.